everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of Chicago Now from Studio 32. I'm Anthony Ponce.
And I'm
alongside
Gabri.
And we have a very special guest.
We do. Justine Baker.
And I'm Justine Baker.
Part of our all-star digital team. Thanks for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I love that we have Justine in because you've got like a front row seat to like Chicago's digital self. FYI, it's a little behind the scenes stuff. Every day, we here at Fox 32, we get an email from Justine about what is trending. Like, what are the most searched for Google searches, not like from around the country, but specifically to Chicago. And some of them are like, wait, why are Chicago?
Yeah, you scratch your head.
Yeah,
Right?
but I love reading the list.
But most of them are things that I'm already thinking about, so
Yeah.
it makes sense that everyone else is too. And it helps with our coverage a ton.
Oh, for sure.
I'm
for
so
sure.
glad it helps. Yes.
Sometimes I bust out the list during my interviews. And I'll like ask them, so here, this is trending this week, but it's great to have you here joining us here on Chicago Now because we love, obviously, discussing the trending topics that are going on locally. And you've brought a couple in that are gaining a lot of buzz today.
Yeah, so the first one is Jeremy Allen White. So over the weekend, he was spotted at a few places in Chicago, and a fan saw him and was like, hey, are you Jeremy Allen White? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So I have a TikTok video we want to show you. Let's run the video.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's all he says, and
So
then he walks
pretty
off.
much he's on a near Northside restaurant.
Yes, he
and
was at
someone
Doma.
recognizes him.
Yep, someone recognized him, and if you saw in the video, Austin Butler's in the back, kind of
Yeah.
hiding a little bit with the cap, and people are asking, who is he? So my question to you guys, if you saw a celebrity in Chicago, what would you do? What's your first
Ooh.
reaction?
You know what? I've seen a celebrity before. It was Ashley Benson from Pretty Little Liars, and I did the worst move ever. I acted like I was like too cool. This is okay, granted, like I was maybe 16 years old, and I didn't take a picture with her, and I took a picture of her and my cousins. And took a step back and was like, yeah, I'll take a
Gabby,
picture of you
I
guys.
respect
Like,
that.
I don't care.
I
When I'm
respect
like,
that.
I needed that clout though.
No, Gabby, I think that is a very reasonable approach there. Like, hey, because they're used to being pulled in. Come on,
Yeah, you
selfie,
know
and
what?
Right.
You,
You had
did
to play it cool.
Yeah,
Next
you
time
have
I'm
to
going to
play
do
it
the
cool.
total
I would
opposite.
do
I'm going
that.
to get really
Yeah.
excited and let them know how excited I am.
Right? I feel like I'd be the type of person that takes my phone and like takes a little picture.
Yes.
It's blurry in the background. I tell my friends, hey, just give me a second. And then I'm on the phone like, hey, girl, guess who I saw?
I
that
also
would
go
be
for
me.
less is more. I go for the opposite. I'm just like, I handle it internally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited on the inside, but I'm just kind of.
But you need to have the proof. And so
Yeah.
what's the harm in asking them if they want to take a picture with you? Because they say no, they say no.
You guys ever been starstruck? By
Well,
someone in
yeah,
person?
that Ashley Benson.
Ashley
that
Benson,
was Pretty Little
starstruck?
Liars. That's a big show. And it was like kind of in her heyday, and I was just like, oh, yeah, sure.
I think I'd be starstruck if I saw Beyonce. That would be
Oh
my
my
biggest.
Yeah.
gosh.
Beyonce,
Yes.
I wouldn't know what to say.
I mean, a name of all names.
Right?
So,
So the next thing that's trending are people are Googling what are some work from home jobs and some part-time jobs. So do you guys think people should be required to go back to the office full time right now?
I feel like I'm old school in this category, and I think mostly yes. I like the hybrid model, but I feel like it should be like 80-20 in person versus at home, or 85-15, like 4 days in the office. I don't know if that makes me old school, but we actually just ran a story today about the CTA. They were dishing out millions of dollars to a bunch of employees that were staying home, and they weren't even capable of doing their assigned jobs from home.
wow.
So like, I don't know. I think there should be a move post-pandemic back
See,
into
it's
the
hard.
office.
I think these companies are now doing the mandatory, you need to go in a couple days a week. For instance, IBM, my fiance works for them, and he's fully remote, and they just sent out an email last week, hey, you guys need to go into the office at least 3 days a week, and we'll know because you have to badge in.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're thinking of everyone's position, and they said no matter what, you need to go in. But, he's doing some calls that he's had to sign NDAs for, or, and actually, frankly, I guess there's not even enough room for people. So having to navigate that and being used to having your work conversations at home in a safe spot and then going to a cubicle, especially for our generation, maybe we're not used to being in person. I don't know. It's interesting.
So people are just like suddenly curious about this. I wonder.
People are curious. I think they're tired of going to the office.
Yeah.
I think for me, it depends on what job it would be. I'd be fine with my finance guy working from home, you know, but I don't know if I'd want my doctor or something working from home. I guess telehealth work.
Telemedicine.
Yeah, there's always a way.
I agree. I think sometimes it's just completely the specific job, dependent on that specific job, whether it can be accomplished at home. Because sometimes, yeah, you probably are losing efficiency with the commute time and factors like what you were saying, with like, you know, privacy issues and that. So probably job dependent.
So along with the work from home jobs, people are looking at side hustles.
Ooh.
What side hustle do you think you can
Side
create
hustle.
if there was money was not a part of it? What side hustle would you create?
Ooh, you know what? This is not very creative, but I was doing segments last week with a swim school in Naperville, and I thought, you know what? I used to be certified to teach swimming lessons. I should have kept on with that and done like private swimming lessons on the side, because you can make a pretty good buck.
Okay,
so people at home who have maybe grandkids or kids, or if you're a kid yourself listening, get your teaching certification, because you can make some good money on the side.
I was going to go with something landscape related, because I love being outside working in the lawn like a true middle-aged suburbanite. But you inspired me, Gabby, with your answer, because I've been playing the piano for a long time.
Yes.
I would do, if money was no object and it was like, just doesn't matter the income level, because piano teachers don't, make a ton of money. However, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
To give piano lessons.
Justine, I feel like you have a cool answer.
Yeah.
For something fun. I want something fun. Maybe a food truck.
Oh.
That was like an ice cream truck, and it's on the road. We've got a little music in the background. They know I'm coming. I do something fun like that.
That's a good idea.
I like that. I love the food truck scene, which is growing bigger and bigger every year here in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface with how many good food trucks there are, and visiting some, because they're always traveling and it's hard to keep track. Okay, who's where? I need to just do like a food truck a week.
Natalie was live from Daily Plaza, where
Yes,
Food Truck
I was
Fest
there
is
last year.
happening every. Oh, you got that assignment last, and I love it because they on Daily Plaza every Friday. I think they start at 11. They have a rotating cast of characters
do.
out there, so there could be 10 trucks one week and a different 10 the next, and it's like the restaurants come to you. I just think that is the coolest thing.
It is perfect.
Yeah, and speaking of food, another thing that's trending is people are wondering, is sports more popular than food here in Chicago, or is food more popular than sports? As we know, there is the Windy City Hot Dog Fest this weekend. We've got a lot of these food festivals happening in the summer. With all of our Michelin star restaurants and food fests, do you think food has replaced Chicago, or sports as Chicago's number one?
Ooh.
I've been around a long time. If you asked me this in the 90s during the Bulls dynasty, the answer would be no way. Okay, Bulls, and then Bears in the 80s too. It has been White Sox in the 2005. The Cubs have had some good 2016 World Series, but I would sadly say that, at the moment, in 2025, I'm going to go with the answer. It's close, but I would say, Chicago's become a food town rather than a sports town. We need Caleb Williams. Cubs look good, I will say. Cubs look very, very good this year.
They do.
But I'm going to go with food town. In 2025, it's a food town.
I was going to say the same thing, because the state of our sports teams right now,
I know.
It's hard. But I also have met people who are traveling to Chicago just for food.
Yeah. Well, think about. You mentioned Jeremy Allen White.
Yes.
Okay, the Bear has been just a huge thing, and it does have more and more people talking about Chicago as this culinary mecca.
And so many people are coming in for these food festivals and these just food TikTokers that are going to all these different restaurants and giving their opinion. I am good to cheer for a sports game, but I'm also cheering at the table when I get my plate. And so, I could definitely see why food is more important.
I think we're trending in for sure a huge direction food-wise, and then our sports, we're still waiting. We're still waiting for those dynasty years to come back.
Yep.
Again, there are so many places that we haven't even scratched, like in the West Loop, in River North. You go by a new place
77 neighborhoods,
every day.
countless restaurants.
And it's amazing. It just blows my mind. Some of Sylvia Perez's stories and her series that she's starting. It's so exciting to put a spotlight on some of them.
Justine, you come back anytime you want to talk about these
No
trending
kidding.
topics. She's the in-house expert, even though we like to check the Reddits here. Justine Baker, everybody. And when we come back, another thing that is kind of trending right now, and I can't wait to get Gabby's take on this,
love
because
this topic.
she mentioned her fiance. She just got engaged. And we're going to talk about the most popular places right here in Chicago where people are popping the question. Our thanks to Justine, and we will be right back with more Chicago Now right after this.
Welcome back to Chicago Now. Gabriela Primus alongside Anthony Ponce. We just had a great conversation with Justine Baker. She's part of our all-star digital team here at Fox 32. And we kind of teased to it before the break, but it's proposal season. To be. I know 3 people who got engaged just this last week.
I got engaged on May 1st, so I was right in the
Really? You're in the sweet
proposal
spot.
window, yes.
And I'm 100 days from my wedding.
Wow.
I know, crazy.
When did you get engaged?
September 12th, and I'm getting married September 6th.
Oh, wow. I got married September 8th.
We've talked about this, Anthony. We
Fall
have great
wedding. It's a good
conversations,
call.
and I'm the only one who remembers it. Anyway, so we have an expert that we want to bring over Zoom. It's Natalie Ianello, and I hope, Natalie, I'm pronouncing your name right, but she's a spokesperson for Christopher Duque, so an expert on this topic. Natalie, did I pronounce your name right? I want to give you an opportunity to make sure. And Natalie, it looks like we lost your audio.
Do we have
so
her audio?
We'll have to make sure you're not on mute. If we can't get it, then we'll make sure that
it?
we bring you back here in a second. We'll bring you back here in just a second. We'll let us figure out the audio problem there.
I want you, while we're waiting
please.
for Natalie, would you be willing to share your engagement story?
I would love to. And
Okay,
it's
your proposal story?
You know what? He surprised me like no one has ever surprised me before. So it was, again, September 12th last year. It was a Thursday. So of course I didn't know. I came to work. I worked the morning shift, get off around noon. And he had told me earlier that day, hey, Gabby, we're going to go to have lunch with my boss who's visiting and after work. And so I said, okay, sounds good. A Thursday.
Yeah.
His boss lives out of town.
Right.
It fits.
Didn't raise any eyebrows?
No, didn't raise any eyebrows. I had to drop some stuff off at our new apartment at the time. And so I brought our stuff in, and sure enough, he had a whole setup and a photographer there, and got down on one knee, and it was so sweet. And it was nice because it was our first place together.
Did you see the photographer when you walked in, and were you like?
I did kind of, but because it's a small place.
Yeah.
But still, I was just like, whoa. I think I said, like, are you serious? Are you serious? Are you serious? A million times. And then the best part was, I thought it was just he and I. And he brings me back home to the suburbs, and my whole family from California, and my grandparents from Nicaragua.
California?
My grandparents
And
from
from
Central
Nicaragua?
America came to
Imported
surprise
all
me.
of them?
Had no
Wow.
idea. It was so sweet.
Well done.
Anyway, yes, so it was great.
Well done.
That brings
and
us back
Yes.
to Natalie, who I know everyone has a different proposal story, but what kind of trends are you seeing right now when it comes to proposals in Chicago?
Yeah, well, first of all, congratulations to both you guys on your engagements. So when we looked at Google search trend data, the #1 place that people are searching to propose when it comes to looking for actual venues is the London House Hotel in Chicago. So I think that's just because rooftops are really popular, and if you're going to choose a rooftop, the London House Hotel is the clear winner. It has beautiful 360 views, and it overlooks the Chicago River.
You know, Natalie, my fiance actually looked into it, he said, but he said it was like a couple $1,000s to be able to go up there and actually propose. Did you hear, have you heard the same thing? It kind of costs a little bit, correct?
Yeah, it's a pricier option, and on top of that, you're probably going to pay for your photographer. So a lot of people are actually searching for home proposals also. That's the second most popular local type of proposal people are searching. So while it's not explicitly stated in the data, I think inflation could definitely be playing a role. People are more interested in putting money towards a house or groceries or other necessities. So the proposal itself might be taking a back seat, especially when you consider the expense of the ring.
Oh, yeah, exactly. What's the current I don't know if you can answer this, Natalie, but what's the current rule of thumb? I feel like when I got engaged, and this has been now 13 or 14 years, it was like something like you got to look at 2 months of your salary. I think that was the rule of thumb.
Something like that.
Has that gone down with inflation?
I think that is the standard rule, but with inflation, I definitely would not make that my rule of thumb.
Yeah, that's a splurge.
Natalie, I might ask you some trick questions, so feel free to tell me if you don't know the answer. But I think a lot of people are like, well, maybe we'll do the proposal since London House might cost too much. My apartment doesn't look that great. We'll do it somewhere in the city. But from what I understand, you also have to have a permit or get permission to go there. Have you heard anything along those lines?
Yeah, a lot of the places you can look on the government website and see what's available. But most of the locations are like public parks that we looked at or gardens, and you can just kind of go up and you don't need a permit for that.
Natalie, will you run us through some of the most popular public spots that you are seeing young lovers flock to these days in Chicago?
Yeah, so one of the popular ones, if you're okay with the crowd, is the Buckingham Fountain, which especially at nighttime, it lights up, and that's just a really beautiful backdrop. Another one is the Architectural River Tour, which everybody knows about. So you can definitely get some good scenery there. And then, of course, the Lakefront Trail is another great waterfront option. There's 18 miles of lakefront charm for you to have in your background, and that's another popular place.
That's what I did. So I surprised Maggie at the time we were doing an outdoor barbecue in my backyard, and it was just the two of us, and I just disappeared on her. Disappeared. Vanished. But I left a little note on the seat where I was, and I said, meet me where we went on our first date, and it was right off the lakefront path. There's at Montrose Beach, there's a big peninsula out where you get a full skyline view, and so that's what we did. I'm not surprised the lakefront is a good option. I understand the Garfield Park Conservatory as well.
Yep, we included that one on our list. We also have, let's see, the City Winery in Chicago, if you're looking for something more indoor. We have the Chicago Botanic Garden, so a lot of people are searching for garden proposals also. And then also Cloud Gate or the Chicago Bean, if you're looking for something more popular and out in the open.
So you're kind of reading off, because you guys were able to get this whole list, Christopher Duquette, of 21 locations. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we took a look at social media posts, at photographer websites, and just other rankings to put our list together. So we included a good range from restaurants to outdoor gardens and more touristy attractions. So you'll have a good selection of private and public spots to take a look at for inspiration.
Any one of those 21 that are like really lesser known, where you looked at it, Natalie, and you're like, oh wait, I don't even think I'd heard of that before, that jumped out to you?
I think there were two. One was Milton Lee Olive Park, which is kind of a more peaceful lakefront park, and it has skyline views. And then the other is the Music Box Theater. So that's a historic vintage cinema, and that's a little bit more of a cozy atmosphere if you're looking for something really different.
There's tons of options, and Chicago is so photogenic no matter where you go. Olive Park, the Milton Olive Park that you just mentioned, for those unfamiliar, it's the one that is on, it's not on Navy Pier, but it's right off the water treatment facility.
Gorgeous.
So it's gorgeous, and a lot of people, they don't know about it because all the foot traffic goes up and down Navy Pier. But and they've got these old growth trees that make this really cool canopy.
I never noticed
and you're
that.
right, it's really cool. It's beautiful because you're looking through this. If you go out into the park, you can look through this tunnel of trees back onto the skyline. So that I would, I don't know, if I had to vote on where these young men, young ladies are going to propose to their significant others, that's a good option.
Natalie, this is going to help thousands of young men and women who are looking to propose to their significant other and have no idea where to start, because I've heard lots of stories that it's a lot of pressure on you guys.
It's daunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natalie, I have one more question for you. I don't know if you know the answer, but I've been seeing a lot of different ring shapes, diamond shapes. Can you answer any questions when it comes to like what's popular with the kind of cut that people are looking for?
Ooh, I'm not sure. It's not in the report, but from what I'm seeing on social media, a lot more people are doing round. I think they're going back to kind of traditional, timeless, and simple.
Gotcha.
Traditional, timeless, and simple. All right. Thank you so much for running us through all these engagement trends. It's the season of love in Chicago. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us. We really
Thanks,
appreciate
Natalie.
it.
Thank you.
Can I see your? Can
Yes.
I see the? Oh,
This
wow.
is a
Is that a what's
marquee.
that called? What's that called? That cut called? This is
A marquee diamond.
Marquee diamond. So
Yeah,
it's
and
like,
that's getting more popular, and it was popular, I guess, in the 80s.
oh.
And now it's becoming popular again. Where
What's
that round
old is
cut
new
is
again.
just like elegance, you know?
Very much so.
Like
Wow.
it's a staple that everyone kind of draws to.
During the break, Gabby, I'm going to ask you just how much of your fiance's income he dropped on that.
Uh-oh.
While I get the answer, we're going to go to a quick break and be back more. We're going to talk about a beloved musician who was just diagnosed with a serious condition. We're talking about Billy Joel and what doctors are now recommending in the wake of his diagnosis of a condition called NPH. That is when we come back.
Welcome back to Chicago Now, 10:33, and we are talking about a really important topic. We just recently heard that Billy Joel had to cancel some of his shows after a really serious diagnosis. And it's something I think not all of us have heard about, so we wanted to bring in a doctor to explain this NPH diagnosis. So I'm going to bring in Dr. Webster Crowley, so professor of neurosurgery at Rush Medical College. Thank you so much, doctor, for joining us this morning.
Sure thing. I'm happy to be here and help spread the word about normal pressure hydrocephalus.
Yeah, explain that to us, because it is a complicated name and it's something not probably a lot of people are familiar with.
Sure. So normal pressure hydrocephalus is a condition where you get a buildup of the fluid that your brain floats in. So what can happen is you normally make about 3 times as much fluid as your body needs, and your body needs to reabsorb the remainder of it so it doesn't build up. But over time, particularly as folks get older, that can build up and can cause a classic triad of symptoms where folks get cognitive memory disorder, they get problems with their walking, and they get some urinary incontinence. So we see it in about 3% of folks that are over the age of 65.
3%.
Wow. And one of
Absolutely, yeah. So it's one of the things that
seems
is
high to me because I'm
misdiagnosed.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a second, just the numbers. But you said our brains are actually floating in our head. Will you elaborate on that a little bit? Because that's quite a stunning visual.
Sure. So most people are familiar with the concept of spinal fluid, right? But it's actually cerebrospinal fluid. So it's the fluid that bathes the brain and bathes the spinal cord. And so, it's what prevents us from banging our skull against the inside of our brain against the inside of our skull every time we stop abruptly at a stoplight, and it cushions the brain and protects us. And so when it builds up, it can cause a number of symptoms, but particularly in normal pressure hydrocephalus, it's a slow, kind of insidious buildup that doesn't cause dramatic pressure, but causes these symptoms over time.
Back to this diagnosis with Billy Joel, we heard that his doctor ordered that he'll begin physical therapy and take a break from performing. But what is this treatment or recovery from NPH? What does that entail?
Right. So there's a process that goes into diagnosing it and making sure that this is actually what you think it is. But once you do come to the determination with help of neurologists and neuropsychologists and physical therapists, once we come to that diagnosis, generally the treatment is something called a shunt, where we drill a small hole in the skull, we pass a small tube into the fluid space of the brain, and then tunnel it underneath the skin into the belly. And so it is a pop-off valve for the fluid that builds up. Obviously I'm not participating in Mr. Joel's care, but the physical therapy, my expectation would be to help recover from the shunt. We go through the belly, and so there's some soreness there, and it's kind of getting, back on his feet, so to speak. But it's a shunt that generally is necessary for folks with normal pressure hydrocephalus.
Okay, so for those who have the condition or are going to be diagnosed with the condition and don't even know it yet, what symptoms should they be looking out for? How does it present itself?
So the problem, and one of the reasons why it's commonly misdiagnosed, is that there are other things that it can mimic. So, for instance, there are some memory, like I said, the triad, the memory difficulty, short-term memory particularly. Sometimes people are just brushed off as having age-related kind of memory loss, or severe as Alzheimer's. Folks with the gait disturbances can sometimes be misdiagnosed with Parkinson's. And again, with urinary incontinence, sometimes that happens as we get older. So those are the things that we ask people to look for, and the good news is once we do catch it, it generally is something that's reversible, or in a fair number of patients if we can drain the fluid.
So, when it comes to cognitive ability, Billy Joel's he's a pianist, he's a singer, and all this. Other than there's memory loss. Does it affect day-to-day motor skills and just day-to-day functioning?
So if treated, hopefully not. But and my understanding is that he's being treated, and so it should not. But yes, if it's untreated, then walking. I've never been to a Billy Joel concert. Although when I lived in Wrigleyville, I could sit on my porch and listen to him from Wrigley. But I suspect he's pretty active on stage and is running around and dancing. And so if you're having problems with your walking, that could be quite limiting. So absolutely, it's not just the memory, but also just for folks who aren't on stage and are living the life that Billy Joel is living. The memory stuff can lead to leaving the stove on. The walking problems can lead to tripping and breaking bones and whatnot. So it absolutely does limit your lifestyle and limit your quality of life if it's not treated.
So are you saying since he is getting the treatment, maybe he will be able to return after a period of time to his concerts again and performing for people?
That certainly would be my hope and my expectation if you have normal pressure hydrocephalus. Now look, again, as we all get older, maybe he'll be running around a little less than he was 20 years ago. Maybe he sits down a little bit longer on the piano, things like that. But absolutely, if what he's got is normal pressure hydrocephalus, and everyone's saying that's what he's got, then adequate treatment. It would be my hope and expectation that he could return to his normal activities.
Now, Dr. Crowley, how are you guys able to distinguish between whether they have NPH versus some of these other common age-related symptoms?
That's a great question, and one I talk about with patients all the time. The issue is we don't want to put a shunt in everyone because shunt has risks, and if we just placed a shunt in everyone, we would be exposing people to risk without a proven benefit. So one of the things we do is we get them assessed by our neurologists, by our clinical neuropsychologists, by our physical therapists and occupational therapists, and they get a baseline. And then we generally will place a small tube in the back, like a spinal tap, but we leave a tube in there, and then we drain the fluid for 2 or 3 days while they're in their hospital. And after those 2 or 3 days, we assess them with those the same clinical team that assessed them on one day. A couple days later, assess them, and oftentimes there's a remarkable improvement over those 3 days. And then we say, well, this is someone who can clearly benefit from this procedure, and then we go ahead and place a shunt. Wow. Some folks, truthfully, we do that and we say, I'm sorry, there was no benefit from doing this, and so there's no role to put a shunt in, and then it points to one of these other diagnoses.
Amazing what you all can do. I have one more question. Is this shunt, is it going to be painful for him once it's on?
It should not be painful once it's on. Obviously, there's surgery. You have to make a cut into the skin. You have to cut into the belly and the scalp. But once you heal from that, like a incision anywhere, it should not be painful. Once you might notice a little bump on his head, which is one of the valves, but that's about it. It should not bother him moving forward.
One more question for you, doctor, while we have you here. I was actually surprised to hear that you said 3% of those ages 65 and older have been diagnosed with that. I want to make sure I have that number correct, and then also ask you, if that's the case, what should we be? My parents are in their mid-70s at this point. Is there any precautions that we should tell our older friends and neighbors and loved ones to kind of look out for, so that they're kind of aware and it's on their radar?
Right. So the prevalence studies suggest once you get to that age is somewhere between 1% and 3%. Okay. And for folks that are diagnosed with dementia, it could be up to 6%. I think the thing to, I always say, if there's any concern, talk to your doctor. And again, if you're walking has progressively worsened, if your memory is progressively worsened, it always makes sense to talk to your primary care physician, to a neurologist. If they think it's a neurosurgical issue, to your neurosurgeon. The one thing I always try to stress is there's no harm in investigating something that might end up being negative. The harm is in ignoring something that might be positive. And so we always stress to people, look, if there's any concern, talk to someone, and they can always say, no, this is not what you have. Don't worry, this is just part of the normal aging process. But we don't want to miss folks who may have it, and we may be able to make a appreciable difference.
Very, very reasonable advice there. Dr. Webster Crowley with Rush, we really appreciate you running us through this, giving us the cliff notes on this condition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, we are going to go to break right now, but when we come back, we got a cool little event this is kind of an under the radar that goes on every summer. I sometimes see it when I'm driving, when I used to work the night shift, driving home on Lakeshore Drive. We're talking about these full moon fests, which happen throughout the city on, guess what? Those nights that are the full moon. Kaplan would love this stuff.
He would. He's probably there.
He's probably there with all his needed. And then we're also going to have the latest on the ongoing debate between whether we call it the Willis Tower at this point, or are those old school folks among us still going with Sears. That's trending on Reddit. We're going to talk about those and a couple of other topics when we come back, so stay with us.
Welcome back to Chicago Now. We've gone through a lot of stuff today, talking about best proposal spots in Chicago, as well as talking about Billy Joel's latest diagnosis. And now we're talking about more things to do in Chicago, as if there weren't enough. But this one's really cool.
In Chicago.
It's been happening for a while, and both you and I didn't really know about it, and it's happening on June 20th. So let's tell you more. It's actually trending on Reddit right now. So it is the Chicago Full Moon Jam. It's a free volunteer-run performance event that brings together fire spinners, drummers, dancers, and spectators on the lakefront during the summertime. So this looks like it's a schedule. It started in 2004 as a birthday celebration, and it has now grown into an official part of the Chicago Park District's Night Out in the Park series. It's obviously held under the full moon, and the event showcases local talent in a vibrant, community-driven setting by Lake Michigan.
It's really cool. They've got a very slick website. I thought these were
They
more
do.
impromptu in years past, because again, I used to see...
Yeah, casual Facebook posts.
Yeah, exactly. And when I would be driving home, when I used to work the 2 to 10 shift here, Gabby, you'd look off to the right, because they've got one in near Montrose Harbor, and you'd see all these neon lights and, if memory serves, like fire performers. You know, have you ever seen a fire performer?
Yeah.
It's super cool. Now, they're trained in pyrotechnics and all this, so kids don't try this at home. But they're spinning, they're dancing, they've got like hula hoops, and a lot of people have kind of like neon stuff that they bring out, the neon outfits and things to
dark
spin. But it's a super cool thing. One of them I noticed is on July 4th at Winnemac Park. I think I was talking about this yesterday with Caitlin Cody. At Winnemac Park, every July 3rd and July 4th, the Chicago Fire Department, they kind of look the other way, because there are these impromptu, I don't know if you've ever been to one. Have you ever been to one of the impromptu fireworks shows in the Chicago neighborhoods? I
haven't, but I've heard them and seen them.
Because you know how you look out over the skyline in July 3rd or July 4th, and you just see fireworks.
Yes.
If you have a view of the skyline from anywhere, if the view opens up, you just see fireworks going off everywhere. It is remarkable to me that in this day and age, some of these things are allowed, because they're unsanctioned, they're impromptu, they're improvised, but for me, I love them because they're part of the fabric of what Chicago becomes during the summer months. Does that make sense?
And it could be such a small event, and it seems like we're so into community that we make it this huge thing.
And sometimes when things get over-organized and over-engineered and over everything, then they become sterile. And so I love these neighborhood impromptu things, because it's like feels like kind of a throwback.
Okay.
You know? So anyway, that's only slightly related to these full moon fests, but you got to look out for these. They're so much fun, and they're actually, I know we talk about the impromptu fireworks displays, but these full moon jams, they're very family friendly.
Oh, really?
Exactly.
See, I would think that it would be
like the opposite,
a
like
little
just
much. Okay,
teenagers
here's their
going crazy.
website. Yeah, they
No, but
really
like
have
on
it
the
under
website.
control.
If you go to the FAQs, you will see no booze, no drugs, no, you know what I'm saying? No open flames if you're not licensed to do it.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, exactly.
There
Here we
are
go.
open flames.
Thank you, Jennifer, for pulling up. Family friendly. It's a sober event. They are, it's like a leave no trace thing. Leave the park cleaner than you found it. And they've got a lot of, just parameters in place. Otherwise, these are events that I do believe the city would shut down.
I like the last bullet. Protect the community, protect the jams. And these are great ways, like you said, you being into the Chicago music scene, but for these people to have a stage.
Oh, for sure. And the drum circles are totally impromptu. I don't know if you've been to an impromptu drum circle.
Yes, I have, actually.
Yeah, and they said, they actually specify on the website, don't enter the drum circle unless you have a drum. So they try to keep it a little bit organized.
Don't
there.
bring
That's
your
something
pots
to
and
look
pans.
out for. I wish they were happening during our morning show because that'd be a fun live shot.
That would be.
To go out to.
That would be. Maybe they can make it work. I don't know.
Maybe during the night
Especially
show.
during those early morning hours. They can meet us before the sun rises.
There you
I
go.
don't know.
There you go. All right, so another age-old question that has stood the test of time has to do with the tallest building in the city. And this has been a topic that comes up every year, but it's hitting the Reddits this week. Very unscientific poll. Do you have strong feelings on calling it the Sears versus the Willis Tower? If so, what is your age? And I think this is an interesting question. This is like the essence of Reddit right here. This is an artist that asked this question. The artist is doing a proposal for a mural, and they want to know your age, because I do feel like this may be a very age-dependent response.
Yeah, it is.
Do you know what I mean? So your experience here in the city, what is your kind of default?
Well,
at
you know,
this
my
point?
parents will still call it the Sears Tower, even though they're not technically from Chicago. I go back and forth because I want to respect both parties, right? I have to be correct on air, so I have to
you're
say,
the traffic
I have to
reporter.
say
You
Willis.
have to be accurate.
But I'll throw in Sears Tower every so often. One, because that's first what comes to mind, and I have to like catch myself and say Willis Tower. But I'll get messages. I've gotten a couple saying, hey, and they're playful messages and they're sweet, but hey, just so you know, we still call it the Sears Tower. It's so funny.
So I have kind of made a low-key point out of calling it the Sears, even though I'm in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
On the air, we do have to be accurate. But I've never heard a complaint from anyone of me calling it Sears. Now, there's a couple other buildings where this is happening. And by the way, there's some interesting responses. One of them on that Reddit thread made the point that psychologically, between the ages, this is I'm just regurgitating, don't blame the messenger here, but between the ages of 18 and 20, you kind of lock into certain things. Yeah, here it is right here. Oh my gosh,
Makes
Jenna,
sense.
you were so quick on the draw here. All right, there's a psychological theory that sort of says certain feelings of what's right and wrong. Oh, sorry, 19 and 21. Becoming adult fully, which is roughly in the age of 19, 21, the point when you process. So your strong feelings kind of lock in.
Interesting.
So wherever you are between age 19 to 21, you know what I've noticed
That's a
that
small
is
gap.
with music. With music, it's like what you are drawn to a lot of times when you're a younger person or in these formative years, you get you hear about adults getting stuck in a decade. I've got an aunt and uncle where it's like their style seems to have stuck in a certain their home decor and their taste in music.
I also have an uncle
you know what I mean?
like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh
It
yeah.
kind of locks in. It makes me think, what decade did I get stuck in? Probably in the 2000s.
I feel like you're cool enough, Anthony,
thanks,
where
Gabs.
you have
Thanks, Gabs.
you've kept up with the trends,
Hey,
my man.
keep that coming. You will.
But what are
flattery
some of those,
will get you everywhere.
I mean, I can't think on top of my head what other buildings are now they're switching because
It's not the John Hancock Center.
You're right.
It's just the address,
875 North Michigan. And I messed that up when I went to segments there.
Who is
Didn't
ever
know.
going to not call it the John
Didn't
Hancock?
know.
Because, like, it's one thing to go from Sears to Willis, where there's an actual name.
Yeah, that's true.
But you can't ask folks to go from a proper name, the John Hancock Center, to just like
The address.
a number and an address. No. You can't do that. you guys over at 875 North Michigan, you got to come up with another name, and then we might be sold.
They've changed recently guaranteed rate to just rate field.
It's a good move.
It is a good move, actually,
Yeah.
but still, of course, I'm gonna call it guaranteed
Comiskey.
rate just because it's in my head.
And then since I'm twice
other
as old as
people-
you,
yeah, exactly.
I'm Comiskey.
The old people.
You know what? Actually, exactly. It's okay. So yeah, actually, I did full disclosure. I have gone from Comiskey to just calling it Sox Park.
Yeah,
because,
I think that's fair.
Because it wasn't it something before? Yeah, because it was U.S. Cellular Field, and then it was the Cell, and then it was guaranteed rate, and then now it's just rate. So that's too many. That's too many lily pads for me to hop from one to one. So I'm going with Sox Park, and unless like a lot of viewers or the bosses upstairs tell me otherwise.
I know we're getting off topic
might be
now.
what I go with.
But
Go ahead.
I didn't know that you were a Sox fan.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought since you're a Northsider that you'd be a Cubs fan.
No,
You're
I was
a Sox fan.
a Sox fan in enemy territory growing up as
I
well.
love
I
that.
grew up in the northern suburbs. Little known fact, my dad, my brother, and I, we sang the national anthem
No
on
way.
opening day at Comiskey Park.
Please
back
tell
in,
me
like,
you have
06.
that
Oh,
on
we
tape.
got it's on YouTube. I'll have Jenna and Delaney pull it up one of these days.
Okay. Wow,
Yeah.
Anthony. So
my
you're
brother he's a pro. I
You're
can
in
sing on
deep.
tune. I can make contact with the ball. But my brother started a pretty well-known a cappella group that still sings to this
Oh, I
day.
know.
They go to the Chicago. They're called Straight No Chaser. With him there, I felt like totally comfortable because he knew how to like conduct us because there's a big reverb. I'm
Okay.
going off on a tangent right now, but you have an earpiece, but you know when you don't have mixed minus in your ear,
Yes,
you
I
hear
do.
your own echo. It's a really frustrating thing that happens from time to time here in broadcasting, but you have to account for that. That was the hardest
interesting.
part
I
about
would have never known that,
Yeah.
obviously, because I am horrible at singing.
it. You are.
I'm absolutely horrible.
Okay. Well, yeah, Sox fan for sure. And then I'm trying to think are there any other buildings that come to
I
mind
don't-
where it's like Willis,
drawing a blank.
Sears, John Hancock, they changed, like the Jane, oh my gosh.
Here it is. All right, quiet on set.
From NBC Chicago, Anthony Ponce, his brother from WGN Television, as well as from the national recording a cappella group Straight No Chaser, Dan Ponce, and their father, the Studs Terkel award-winning host of Chicago Tonight on WTTW, Bill Ponce, for the singing of our national anthem.
Anthony Ponce, wow, you are a man of many talents. I was
that brought
thinking maybe
back
you were by
memories.
one of the concession stands, like with your. No, you were actually, and it was filled in there. It wasn't like the game I went to a couple weeks ago.
It was opening day. And I remember, if memory serves, I feel like there was supposed to be a flyby. An
Yeah.
aerial flyby that had to be canceled at the last second. But it was a big deal.
That's electric.
Woo,
man.
I got nervous just watching that, guys. Thanks for pulling it up.
That
But yeah,
what year was that?
I can't remember.
Come on,
Maybe
Anthony.
07?
It wasn't your formative years.
No,
19 to
yeah, it wasn't
21.
between 18 and,
Yeah,
18 and
so-
21. I can't remember what year it was, but yeah, that was a thrilling experience for sure. Now, still on my list, Gabs,
Mm-hmm.
I want to throw out the first pitch. At some kind,
I
if it could
cannot
be a
believe they
regular
haven't
season
asked you to do that.
I've been lobbying for years.
Also-
for years, I've been putting this out.
Brian
in the universe.
Jackson needs to as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, just get the whole Good
got
Day
dibs
Chicago
before
team
Brian,
on.
okay.
I mean, we can practice too. It's not like we're gonna put on a bad showing.
When
They
I
did
play
not put on
catch-up
a bad
front with my
showing. That was
son, I always
amazing.
pretend I'm throwing the
Yeah.
first pitch out. You know.
So you're already visualizing
I'm
it.
already
You're manifesting
yeah, exactly.
it,
I'm
literally.
manifesting it. Gab's always a pleasure to have you in
Thank
studio.
you
You're going to
for
be joining
having
us
me.
tomorrow too, right?
I
okay.
will.
Yeah, Caitlin's off for a little PTO, and we will be back with more Gabby Primus tomorrow, same time, same place, Chicago Now. Have a great rest of your Thursday, everybody, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.